Hey guys, Dov here with some more Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer action. We're here today with Malice Darkblade. He's going to be taking his Dark Elves against the Dwarves. This is actually a replay from the stream I had a few days ago. I'm up against A Move Hacker, and yeah, I know not all of you watched the stream, so I wanted to bring this particular battle to you because this is a pretty fun one. We've gone with a very heavy cavalry-centric build. We've got lots of Cold One Knights here, a couple Cold One Knights getting straight in on the action against some Rangers. We've got lots of Bugman's Rangers who do have charge defense. We've also got plenty of Miners with blasting charges. We've got some Throwing Axes, Thunderers, one Rune Lord, some Dwarf Warriors with great weapons, and other various units. I've got 5 Bleak Swords and 2 Dread Knights with 4 regular Knights, Manticore Summoner, and of course Malice himself, Malice in the Palace. These guys with their maces are going to be getting in here, just messing up these miners right off the bat. Over here on the side, you can see I did come in, do a bunch of disruption on that charge. I still don't know necessarily that I paid for these 2 Cold One Knights, but still able to get in and be able to get those Bleak Swords in without having taken any blasting charges to the face, which is kind of my goal. Got a Manticore Summon ongoing, and pushing up and around the side with a couple Dark Riders as well, just to kind of pressure the backline. Cold One Knights, I love the lances, man. They look so cool. The like tips on them especially look absolutely brutal. The maces are okay. I mean, they're a little small, to be honest, but I mean that's Dark Elves for you, right? They got these small little maces here. I mean, it's like, yeah, they seem to be clipping out of their hands as well. I mean, it's like, honestly, like the Oblivion Iron Mace is more impressive in my opinion, but hey, I mean, they do use it to good effect here. You can see these Dragonback Slayers running in, trying to stabilize the situation. There's just lizard cavalry everywhere. Meanwhile, Malice is running in on foot. He's going to get in and try and take out this Rune Lord. Obviously, he does great AP values, very strong combatant on foot, regardless of everything. I mean, he's just a good duelist in general, so he can get in here. He's got some Cold One Knight support as well. That Rune Lord, probably not long for this world. We're going to pop his debuff, I believe. No, or just straight up route the Rune Lord. Looks like we'll just straight up route him. Meanwhile, a lot of the Dwarf lines are collapsing. We're going to throw up the second Manticore Summon, but, I mean, these Slayers will continue fighting. And the Dread Knights are okay in a sustained fight. The Cold One Knights, not so much. Dark Riders, obviously terrible in a sustained fight, but we're going to continue rumbling in here, trying to rout away as many of these units as we can and chase them off the side. Unfortunately, most of them have been coming back just because, although I have the mobility advantage, I definitely do not have a numbers advantage by any means. Just trying to break all these various units here and not get too spread out, but Manticore Summons will definitely allow me to keep, especially these lighter units like the Rangers, keep them broken pretty efficiently. You can see Dread Knights coming in here with their tiny maces. Oh, that dwarf went for a ride. And, yeah, the Dwarf Warriors Dragonfire Pass here, slugging it out. Their anti-infantry obviously will be very good against the Bleak Swords. Just in general, that extra melee attack and weapon damage, they'll be able to hit those guys pretty hard. That being said, plenty of Cold One Knights still, a handful of Dread Knights. Looks like the Rune Lord did come back. Got a Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin there to debuff the speed. Malice is potentially going to go back out there and try and finish him off, but I have to be careful. A lot of these guns and bows are going to be rallying here. And again, these Cold One Knights starting to run out of steam. They only have 26 melee defense, so like even these Thunderers in melee, they have 24 attack, right? So they're still pretty close to base chance to hit. And they will be doing little bits of chip damage here and there. That's one thing about Dwarf Skirmishers, particularly Thunderers, Quarrelers, Bugman's Rangers as well. Not so much for regular Rangers, but it is true to an extent. But they just have good defensive stats, right? Like the regeneration of the Bugmans, the armor of the Thunderers and the Quarrelers. So it can be tough to take them out with units just kind of low to mid-tier cav, right? And I would say that Cold One Knights are certainly mid-tier cav. They do rely somewhat on their anti-large bonus and charge. So in a sustained fight against something like, Bugman's Rangers or Quarrelers, they are going to suffer a little bit, although they certainly will do plenty of armor-piercing damage. So the armor won't be quite as much of a factor, but the melee defense as well is not too bad. I mean, 28 melee defense for a skirmish unit is pretty okay. The Cold One Knights, on the other hand, have much better sustained stats, right? 47 attack, 42 defense. just about picked up an XP chevron there. The handful of them that survived, there's what, 4 models of that unit. We've got 11 here. There's about 10 Cold One Knights over here. There are plenty of Bleak Swords still, and thankfully the Bleak Swords will do just fine against all the Rangers. You could actually use them to kind of chase them off. Let's see, Bleak Swords are 33 speed, yeah, same as the Dwarves, so definitely use them to pressure. Amber Spear goes in, hits those miners with blasting charges, but all of a sudden I'm not super confident in my odds of winning here, even though the balance power is pretty clearly in my favor at this point, because Malice is still pretty healthy. I've still got some Bleak Swords also going on a Wild Goose Chase over in the corner of the map there. And the Sorceress is also very healthy, which I suppose is propping up the balance of power significantly. But honestly, Malice is here fighting some Slayers. He's going to be taking a few pot shots from those Thunderers as well. But if he gets taken out here, I mean, obviously I still have the Sarkhan summon to use. But once the Sarkhan summon has been popped, then I'm essentially on a timer, right? Because once that runs out, then he's gone. That will put a huge dent in the balance of power. You can see that massive Rune of Wrath and Ruin been used on Malice there as he slowly tries to get in range. I'm just going to go ahead and pop that Sarkhan transformation, though, before I lose out. So here comes the nasty demon. He's going to break into his weird run. Does he actually get faster? I'd have to check. I think he's the same speed, I want to say. But it would be actually funny if he got faster on foot when he popped Sarkhan. But yeah, the Supreme Sorceress, or the non-Supreme Sorceress, just the basic Sorceress, going to be running away from the Warriors Dragonfire Pass and the Rune Lord here. Don't want to be taking that engagement, definitely. Do have, like I said, plenty of Bleak Swords still, so we're going to try and rally with them if I can. But getting Sarkhan into range to fight is just the main thing at this point, right? I mean, 36 speed is faster than like 28 and 33 of some of these dwarf units, so he should be able to catch up with them, even if they continue to run away, but they're proud Dawi. They'll probably stand and fight, or at least a handful of them will. But Sarkhan's health ticking down is not the best. Here he comes, though. He's going to pop his little Soul Sealer effect to try and finish off the Rune Lord here. Finish off some of those Slayers as well. And doing so will, of course, help out the balance power a little bit. Looks like we're going to have some friendly damage from those Corlers and Thunderers shooting in there, and it actually leads to army losses. For whatever reason, just that little bit of extra damage on the Slayers, a little bit of extra damage on the Rune Lord from that Soul Stealer effect was enough to push army losses. So even though I feel like I kind of stole that game at the end there, like I feel like A-Move had a chance potentially to come back if Sarkhan would have worn away. Just a little bit too much for the balance power, I guess, and definitely some great performance from the Cold One Knights. 74, 97, 47, 37, all the 7s. I must have won the lottery somewhere. Cold One Knights, Dread Knights, that is, 146 and 91. So I guess those tiny little maces must do something. Definitely do something. Yeah, Bleak Sword, 71 kills for the one that chased units all the way off the battlefield. 68 for these guys, 56 there, 55. Pretty good totals for Bleak Swords against somebody like Dwarves. 74 from Malice himself, 21, and unfortunately we don't get to see the Manticores, but having that terror was definitely pretty key in different engagements. For A-Move's side, got some few chevrons on those Bugman's Rangers, 84 kills on the Dragonback Slayers as well, 81 for the Warriors Dragonfire Pass. So those regiments of renown definitely getting in some really good work. Unfortunately, just because I had such a heavy mobile pressure build, this range contingent, A-Move ended up having a really hard time protecting. But it's definitely an interesting matchup. You know, a lot of people would say that this matchup is in the Dark Elves' favor. I think I would tend to agree with that somewhat, although I do think that as well that the Dwarfs have a lot of really strong tools in this matchup. And there's a little bit of build roulette that happens to a degree. You know, how heavily the Dwarves scale into ranged tools, like what ranged tools specifically they bring. You know, if one or both person decides to take a bunch of air units, gyrocopters, gyro bombers definitely can be pretty good in this matchup. The bombers, maybe not so much. They're really good against single entity chariots, like if you use the main gun to shoot single entity chariots. That's not super common here. The Dark Elves, they do have more single-entity chariots than they used to. Used to just be Malekith on the Lizard Limo. They have a few other options for sweet Uber rides. Of course, you've got the High Beastmaster on the Scourge Runner chariot. This isn't a super common pick just because it doesn't do armor piercing in melee. But for example, you could also take the Master, I believe. Yeah, he has a Cold One chariot, which gives armor-piercing anti-infantry. The issue here is that you don't have healing like you would on the Noble Chariot, but yeah, it's more or less the same cost, just without the healing, which makes it a little bit trickier to use, but it can be okay. Definitely not a super common pick in that matchup, but yeah, like I said, for the Dwarves, they have plenty of tools there. In terms of artillery, I've seen actually flame cannons be okay now in this matchup, believe it or not. Organ guns, cannons, of course, are always going to be good against cavalry. It can be a little bit tricky to protect sometimes against Dark Elves, but Brimstone guns with their anti-large bonus, fire damage, very good. The fire damage doesn't really matter a ton, I mean, unless you're up against a Hydra, but they're great for shooting at stuff like Cold One Knights, especially because Cold One Knights don't have very many unit models. Once you start to pick away at those unit models with the Brimstone guns, they fall apart pretty quickly, so it's a little bit of food for thought there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.